Every day you have two choices: stay the same or grow. Growth won't happen by accident. It has to be forced, chosen, and made a priority. You don't need to suffer, but you do need to be intentional. Because if you don't choose to grow, life will force it on you through pain. Growth doesn't just happen to you. It's not something that magically appears with time or age. Many people assume that just because they're getting older, they're getting better, but that's not true. Growth isn't automatic, it's intentional. If you're not actively choosing to improve, then by default, you're settling. You cannot wait for the right moment, the perfect conditions, or someone else to push you. You must make the decision to grow on your own terms, every single day. Life has a way of forcing growth upon us through hard times, through setbacks, heartbreaks, and failures. But that's the hard route. That's growth through pain. Yes, it works, but it's a tough way to learn. There's another way, the path of wisdom. The path where you don't wait for the storm, you train yourself before the storm even comes. That's intentional growth. You seek it, you pursue it, you build it into your life by design, not by default. You have to take ownership of your development. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to do it for you. You must decide that you're worth investing in. That your future is worth more than your excuses. That your potential is greater than your distractions. When you live intentionally, you become a creator of your destiny, not a prisoner of your circumstances. Most people live reactively. They wake up, scroll through their phones, go to jobs they don't like, come home exhausted, binge watch shows and repeat the same cycle. They wait for some big event to change everything. But change doesn't come that way. Change comes from the small decisions you make daily. From choosing to read instead of scroll. From journaling instead of complaining. From exercising discipline instead of giving in to impulse. That's where transformation lives. In the small, quiet moments. Where no one is watching but your future self is waiting. When you live intentionally, you begin to take control of your habits, your mindset. Those who decide, I will grow, no matter what, you stay at home or you deal with it through your event. That's because progress doesn't come to the most talented or the most gifted. It comes to the most meted. That's because progress doesn't come to the most talented or the most gifted. It comes to the most mighted. The beauty of intentional growth is that it compounds. It might start with something as simple as waking up 30 minutes earlier to reflect or read. But over time, that simple decision can lead to greater clarity, better decision making, stronger confidence, and new levels of success. It's like planting a seed. At first you see nothing. It looks like your effort is being wasted. But what you don't see is the root system forming underneath. That foundation is being built quietly. And one day, it breaks through the surface and becomes a tree. Growth isn't glamorous. It's not always exciting, but it's always worth it. The most powerful version of you isn't found in your comfort. It's revealed through your consistency. When you wake up with purpose, when you choose discipline over delay, when you say yes to the hard things because you know the reward is transformation. You don't have to do everything at once, you just have to start. Choose one area of your life to grow in, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and commit to it daily. Let each choice you make reflect the future you want, not the comfort of your past. Because your next level doesn't come from wishing. It comes from working on yourself with intention. This is your life. You get one shot at it. Don't live it by accident. Don't drift, drive. Don't settle. Grow on purpose. Growth is not always loud. It doesn't always come in big breakthroughs or dramatic moments. Often it's quiet. It's the small choices you make each day that seem insignificant in the moment. But over time, those small actions compound, just like interest in a bank account. At first, the progress seems slow. You may not see a difference after a few days or even a few weeks, but keep going. And one day, you'll look back and realize just how far you've come, not because of a single giant leap, but because of consistent effort applied over time. Think of it like this. If you improve yourself by just 1% each day, That may not feel like much. It may even feel like you're standing still. But over the course of a year, that 1% daily improvement compounds into exponential growth. It's the law of the harvest. You plant seeds through your daily actions, and eventually those seeds bear fruit. But the fruit only comes if you stay committed long enough to see it through. The truth is, most people give up before their growth has a chance to compound. They start strong, but they don't stick with it. They're looking for instant results, not lasting transformation. But real growth isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. Anyone can be disciplined for a day. Anyone can be motivated for a moment. But it's what you do consistently, day in and day out, that determines the trajectory of your life. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you deposit into your personal growth account. Every time you read a book instead of scrolling aimlessly, you invest in your mindset. Every workout, every journal entry, every uncomfortable conversation that builds your emotional strength. These are the small decisions that build a powerful life. They may not look like much in isolation, but over time, they accumulate and amplify. Growth compounds when you do the right thing repeatedly, even when you don't feel like it. That's where the power is. Not in doing something once, but in doing it again and again until it becomes who you are. Consistency turns effort into identity. You go from someone who tries to grow into someone who lives to grow. That shift is what makes the difference. Because once growth becomes part of your identity, you rely on motivation, you rely on momentum. Just like financial investments grow with time and reinvestment, your personal development grows when you keep pouring into it and refuse to withdraw too early. You don't need massive changes all at once. You need the humility to start small and the faith to stay consistent. Those who understand the power of compounding know that the most valuable results take the longest to show, but when they do, they often arrive suddenly, like a dam breaking after years of pressure. This is why you must not get discouraged when progress feels invisible. That's the critical stage, the moment when most people quit. But if you persist through the invisible seasons, you earn the visible rewards. You build habits, you rewire your thinking, you sharpen your skills, and most importantly, you strengthen your belief in yourself. That belief is the engine of growth. So today, don't aim for perfection, aim for progress. Aim for that 1% improvement. Read a page, do the workout, speak the truth, learn the skill, repeat the action, keep going. Your future is not built in a day, but it is built daily. The small things, done consistently, lead to extraordinary outcomes. This is the compound effect in motion. It's not magic, it's math. It's not luck, it's discipline. It's not far away, it's already happening. If you don't stop, real growth rarely looks impressive in the beginning. In fact, it often looks like nothing is happening at all. Just like an oak tree starts its journey not with towering branches but with roots digging deep into the earth, your personal growth begins in silence, in solitude, and beneath the surface. You put in the work, you show up every day, you make sacrifices. And for a while, it seems like nothing is changing. But in that invisible space, away from the applause, away from recognition, your foundation is being formed. We live in a world obsessed with instant results. Everyone wants to see the fruit before the roots. But anything that grows fast without a strong base eventually collapses. That's why the oak tree doesn't rush. It spends years growing underground before it ever dares to push upward. Because it knows that what's beneath the surface will determine how tall it can rise and how long it can last. It's not interested in short-term beauty. It's built for endurance. Your journey is no different. When you start investing in yourself, working on your mindset, rebuilding your habits, healing your wounds, and chasing your purpose, it may feel like no one sees it. There's no reward right away. No one claps for the inner work. No one celebrates your discipline when it's quiet. But that's the part of the journey that matters most. That's where real transformation takes root. The people who appear to rise suddenly have often been working silently for years. What the world calls overnight success is usually just long-term preparation finally breaking through. They endured seasons of invisibility. They kept showing up when they had every excuse to stop. They trusted the process when the results weren't there yet. And because they kept going, they finally emerged stronger, more grounded, and more unshakable than ever. This stage of underground growth is also where you build resilience. It's where you learn patience, discipline, and faith. It's where you stop relying on motivation and start relying on conviction. Because when nothing around you is changing, the only thing that keeps you going is the belief that it's still worth it, and that belief becomes your fuel. Too many people abandon their journey because they mistake silence for failure. They assume if no one sees the change, it must not be happening. But growth doesn't announce itself. It whispers. It unfolds in small moments, in the choice to get up early, to stay consistent, to keep moving even when the outcome is uncertain. And over time, those quiet moments accumulate into something powerful. You can't build anything meaningful if you're not willing to embrace this hidden stage. You can't stand tall in public if you haven't dug deep in private. The roots you grow now will determine how much weight you can carry later. They will stabilize you when storms hit. They will keep you grounded when success comes. And they will nourish you when life tests you. So if it feels like nothing is happening right now, keep going. If no one is cheering for your progress, cheer for yourself. If the path seems long and unrewarding, know that every step is feeding your future. The roots are growing, the foundation is forming, and when the time is right, you'll break through the surface not as a fragile sprout, but as a mighty oak, unshaken by winds and unwavering in purpose. Your growth is happening even when it's invisible. Don't give up on the underground season. That's where the real work is done. That's where greatness is born. Growth doesn't respond to emotion, it responds to action. Real change isn't built on the back of a single powerful speech, a motivational quote, or a fleeting burst of energy. It's built in the trenches through daily decisions, repetitive effort, and quiet discipline when nobody's watching. The world is full of people who get inspired for a moment but never follow through. That's because inspiration alone is a spark. It's not the fire. You don't need another motivational event. You need a system, a rhythm, a standard you refuse to drop, even when you don't feel like it. Because here's the truth. Feelings are unreliable. Some days you wake up fired up, ready to take on the world, but most days you wake up tired, distracted, or overwhelmed. And it's in those ordinary days that your future is truly decided, not the high energy ones. What you do when you're not inspired will define how far you go. Too many people treat self-growth like a mood, something they tap into when they feel ready. But growth doesn't wait for permission. It requires a decision to show up, whether the mood is there or not. Think about a sculptor working with a block of stone. They don't strike it once and expect a masterpiece. They show up every day, chisel in hand, removing a little bit more. That's how transformation happens. Small strokes, repeated over time. Consistency is what separates dreamers from doers. It's easy to get excited about a new goal or vision. It's much harder to keep showing up when progress is slow, when no one is applauding, and when your energy runs low. But those are the moments that build character. That's where growth truly lives. Not in the rush of excitement, but in the repetition of action. This is why so many people get stuck in cycles. They attend a conference, watch a motivational video, read a powerful book, and for a few days they are on fire. They make lists, post quotes, and start new habits. But when the emotion fades, so does the effort. Then they wait for the next wave of inspiration to hit. But that cycle kills momentum. Growth isn't found in spurts, it's found in stability. You must train yourself to act regardless of emotion. Discipline beats motivation every single time. Motivation is a visitor, it comes and goes, but discipline is a resident. It stays, even when it's not convenient. When you show up consistently, something powerful happens. You stop being controlled by your feelings. You become the type of person who keeps promises to themselves. You build trust with yourself, and that internal trust becomes the foundation of your confidence. Even the most successful people don't feel motivated all the time. What sets them apart is their commitment to the process. They have routines, they have rituals, and they stick to them, especially on the days when motivation disappears. That's what makes them strong. Not their energy, but their consistency. Not their hype, but their habits. If you want to grow, you need to stop depending on emotional highs. Instead, build a system that keeps you grounded. Create a schedule you can follow. Set goals that are realistic and measurable. Celebrate small wins. And most importantly, don't break the chain. Even if you can only do a little, do it daily. Because every small action compounds. Every step, no matter how tiny, keeps you moving forward. It's not what you do once that changes your life, it's what you do repeatedly. So trade occasional inspiration for daily discipline. Trade emotional hype for consistent movement. Because the person who takes one small action every day will always outperform the person who waits for the perfect mood. Growth isn't about doing everything. It's about doing something again and again until your actions carve out a new version of you. Not because you felt like it, but because you chose to. Every single day. Learning is powerful, but only when it leads to action. In a world flooded with information, it's easy to mistake consumption for transformation. We read books, listen to podcasts, take notes, and watch hours of motivational content. Yet despite all that knowledge, many people remain stuck in the same patterns, facing the same problems. Why? Because growth isn't just about what you know, it's about what you do with what you know. There's a false comfort in learning. It feels productive. It gives you a sense of momentum. But knowledge that isn't applied becomes clutter. It turns into mental storage rather than spiritual and personal evolution. Reading another book won't help you if you didn't implement what the last one taught you. Listening to 10 more speeches won't transform your life if you never acted on the first lesson you heard. The real challenge isn't gathering information, it's applying it. An application is uncomfortable. It forces you to face resistance. It requires change, commitment, and often failure. It's easier to remain in learning mode than to risk doing something wrong. But nothing changes until something is done. No action means no growth. You can't think your way into transformation. You have to move. You don't need more content. You need courage. The courage to apply that insight you learned about setting boundaries. The courage to finally act on that advice about discipline and routine. The courage to stop procrastinating and begin doing, because growth is forged in motion, not theory. Every time you apply what you've learned, you stretch, you grow, you shift, you become more than you were before. Some people read hundreds of books and still live in the same mindset, because they're learning for entertainment, not elevation. True students of growth measure their progress by implementation, not inspiration. They don't just highlight quotes, they live them. They don't just nod in agreement, they take action, even if it's messy and uncertain. That's the difference between those who evolve and those who just sound wise. Wisdom isn't found in how much you know. It's found in how much of what you know actually shapes your behavior. A person who applies one principle with discipline will always surpass someone who knows 20 but applies none. Growth is about internalizing, not memorizing. It's about becoming, not performing. When you live your knowledge, it transforms your character. It rewires your habits. It alters your results. We live in the age of overconsumption and under-education. People scroll through motivational clips for hours but never take the first step toward their goals. They collect strategies, plans, and blueprints, but don't execute. This pattern creates mental paralysis. Too much knowledge with no action leads to overthinking, second-guessing, and procrastination. It's time to flip that script. Learn less if you must, but apply more. One action will teach you more than 100 lectures. It's not enough to know how to change, you must be willing to change. That requires repetition, effort, and often failing forward. You'll stumble, you'll miss the mark. But that's where real growth happens. It doesn't come from watching others succeed. It comes from showing up, trying, learning from your mistakes, and getting better with every attempt. That's how wisdom is built. You don't grow from books. You grow from battle, from stepping into real life with the tools you've learned and testing them, applying them, living them. So stop hiding behind preparation and start practicing. Start living like someone who means it, because until you apply it, you haven't truly learned it. Remember, transformation doesn't happen from the outside in. It happens when you take the knowledge you've observed and activate it with consistent effort. Don't just be a collector of ideas, become a practitioner of change. Because the gap between where you are and where you want to be is not more knowledge, it's more action. Comfort is the silent killer of growth. It whispers to you to stay where it's familiar, where it's easy, where there's no risk. But the comfort zone is also the danger zone, because nothing new happens there, nothing bold, nothing brave, and certainly nothing transformational. If you stay in the same routine, repeat the same thoughts, and live in the same patterns, how can you expect a different life? Real growth begins the moment you step outside the safety of what you know and move into the unknown. We all crave security. We all like to feel in control. But growth demands that you loosen that grip. It requires you to stretch, to be uncomfortable, and to risk failure. Whether it's starting a new habit, facing a difficult truth, or pursuing a dream, the first steps are always the hardest because they come with uncertainty. But within that uncertainty lies the very fuel for transformation. Comfort is seductive because it gives you the illusion of peace. You feel calm, but you're slowly shrinking. Your talents dull. Your passion dims. Your potential sits idle. Days pass, then months, then years, and suddenly you look back and wonder where the time went and why nothing really changed. That's the trap of comfort. It feels safe, but it steals your future. Every person who ever accomplished something meaningful had to step outside of what felt good. Growth doesn't happen by doing what you've always done. It happens by daring to do something different. The gym hurts before it strengthens. Speaking up feels scary before it becomes powerful. Starting a new path feels awkward before it becomes aligned. That discomfort is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you are expanding. The comfort zone protects your ego, but it limits your spirit. It shelters you from criticism, but also from discovery. You can't find your true strength until you're tested. You can't develop your full capacity unless you're challenged. And you won't uncover your deepest potential if you only play where it's easy. Growth is a byproduct of friction, of wrestling with fear, of showing up when you'd rather retreat, of staying in the fire long enough to be refined by it. You grow by doing things that make your hands sweat, your voice shake, and your heart race. You grow by trying something new even when you don't know how it will turn out. You grow when you say yes to opportunity instead of excuses. You grow when you walk toward the resistance instead of away from it. That's where the shift happens. That's where your old self gets left behind and your stronger, wiser, bolder self begins to emerge. And yes, discomfort can be painful. It's easier to retreat, to go back to the familiar. But everything you want, confidence, fulfillment, success, peace, purpose, lies on the other side of that temporary discomfort. It's a doorway, and the moment you walk through it, you change. You stop waiting for courage, and you start becoming it. You stop hoping for change, and you start making it. So if you're scared, good. That means you're close to the edge of breakthrough. That means you're alive and awake and ready. Don't pull back. Lean in. Take the step. Speak the truth. Try the thing. Because nothing extraordinary is born in safety. It is born in the stretch, in the friction, in the refusal to remain average. You weren't made to just exist. You were made to evolve. And evolution never happens inside your comfort zone. It happens the moment you decide that staying the same is more painful than growing. So choose the challenge. Embrace the unknown. Walk into the discomfort, and you will walk into your destiny. Growth is not a one-time decision. It's a daily commitment. It's not found in grand gestures or fleeting motivation, but in the quiet, consistent choices you make every single day. You must grow intentionally, not accidentally. You must take action, not just feel inspired. You must apply what you learn, not just consume it. You must lean into discomfort, not run from it, because true transformation begins underground, in the unseen moments, where your roots deepen long before anyone sees your rise. Like compound interest, your efforts may seem small at first, but they multiply. 1% better every day becomes a new identity over time. You're not just changing habits, you're rebuilding your mindset, your standards, your future. Growth is slow, often silent, but always powerful. And when you choose it, day after day, it builds a version of you, the old you couldn't even imagine. So keep going, stay consistent, stay uncomfortable, because the life you want is waiting just beyond the edge of your comfort zone.